Ladies and gentlemen, many people are not doing well under the Trump administration. We all know about the recent lies about Black unemployment being at an historic low, and we know for a fact that is a lie. Many of us in the community, we know people that are unemployed, we know people that are struggling. Well, it is no different for people in rural America. In fact, they're saying they're doing terrible under Trump. This came out in the New York Times, May 9th, 2019. Economists reports Politico are fleeing the Agriculture Department Economic Research Service. 6 of them resigned on a single day last month. The reason? They are feeling persecuted for publishing reports that shed an unflattering light on Trump's policies. But these reports are just reflecting reality. Rural America is a key part of Donald Trump's base. Very true. Very true. When you look at Donald Trump's crowds, the bulk of his crowd are people from rural America. In fact, rural areas are the only parts of the country in which Trump has a net positive approval rating, but they're also the biggest losers under his policies. What, after all, is Trumpism? In 2016, Trump pretended to be a different kind of Republican, but in practice, almost all of his economic agenda has been GOP standard big tax cuts for corporations and rich, while hacking away at the social safety net. The big break from orthodoxy has been the protectionism, his eagerness to start trade wars, which they said is going to kick off a recession. But we shall see. I'm telling you, if somebody is not good at business, they're not going to be good at running your country. And all of these policies disproportionately hurt farm countries. And yes, that is very true. I did articles on how bad crops were rotting and drying up across America last summer. And farmers have been complaining nonstop about the lack of support that they are getting from Trump. The Trump tax cut largely passes farmers by because they aren't corporations and few of them are rich. One of the studies by Agriculture Department economists that raised Trumpian ire showed that to the extent that farmers saw tax reductions, most of the benefits went to the rich 10%, while poor farmers actually saw a slight tax increase. I guess that's making America great again, John. Making America great again, screwing over your farmers. At the same time, the assault on the safety net is especially harmful to rural America, which lies heavily on safety net programs. But aren't they saying to us that we are the ones always usurping government money? But they said these farmers heavily depend on these government safety nets. One of 100 counties, the largest percent of their population receiving food stamps, 85 are rural. So out of 100 counties that are rural in America, 85 of those counties are people that collect food stamps. Okay, at high percentages. Wow. And most of the rest are in small metropolitan areas. The expansion of Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act Obamacare, which Trump keeps trying to kill, has its biggest positive impact on rural areas. Again, showing you how much they, not the black community, not the black community, are relying on government handouts. So you can see 85% of rural counties get the highest percentage of food stamps, and many of them are also on Medicaid. These programs are crucial to rural America, even if they don't personally receive government aid. Safety net programs bring purchasing power, which helps create rural jobs. Medicaid is also a key factor keeping rural hospitals alive. Without it, access to health care would be severely curtailed for rural Americans in general. So they need to keep these government programs of Medicaid and food stamps going, or rural America will fall. What about protectionism? The US farm sector is hugely dependent on access to world markets, which they denied to black farmers. Remember, they have sabotaged black farmers in this country every step of the way, including back in 2018 when they got sold bad seeds on purpose so that they can't compete in the world market. Never forget that. Okay, much more so than the economy as whole. American soybean growers export half of what they produce. Wheat farmers export 46% of their crop. China, in particular, has become a key market for U.S. farm products. That's why Trump's recent rage tweeting over trade has raised the prospect of an expanded trade war, sent grain markets to a 42-year low. That's right. When Trump announced that he was going to put more tariffs on China, the stock market plummeted. It's important to realize, by the way, that the threat to farmers isn't just about possible foreign retaliation to Trump's tariffs. One fundamental principle in international economics is that in the long run, taxes on imports end up being taxes on exports as well. And that is true. China has ramped up its tariffs on the US, usually because they lead to a higher dollar. If the world descends into trade war, US import exports will both shrink, and farmers among our most important exporters will be the biggest losers. Wow. Didn't take long for karma to come back, did it? No, the Most High is at work. Why then do rural areas support Trump? A lot of it has to do with cultural factors. In particular, rural voters are far more hostile to immigrants than urban voters. Now, I want y'all to remember that, because it is rural America's crops that are drying up. And it is very common for them to hire a whole bunch of immigrants to be out there. And then all of a sudden, one day, none of them show up for work. In fact, they never come back. More common than uncommon. And then that's when these farmers lose their entire crops, which in many cases are worth millions of dollars. They just sit there and rot out in the sun, you know? And they won't tell you the most crucial thing to why that happens. When the immigrants leave, the crops dry up. They can't do the work. When the slaves left after chattel slavery ended, slavery did not end, just chattel slavery ended. Um, the crops dried up. They went through a famine in the South. Why did they go through the famine? They can't do that work. They can't roast out in the sun like that. Even with sunscreen on, it would kill them. They would end up with all kinds of skin cancers. They can't do that work themselves. Yeah, they can own the farm, but they can't work the farm that they own. They got to get others out there to do the work. And you're going to see crops dry up again, you know, as Trump keep putting in more and more tougher undocumented worker policies in place. They're going to keep disappearing from the farms. So you just watch. I'll have the stories on crops drying up. Now, if these folks could really truly do that kind of job, you shouldn't see those kind of stories at all. But we still see it. Okay, so back to this. If the world descends into a trade war, U.S. import exports will both shrink, and farmers among our most important exporters will be the biggest losers. Why then do rural areas support Trump? A lot of it has to do with cultural factors. In particular, rural voters are far more hostile to immigrants than urban voters, especially in communities where there are few immigrants to be found. Lack of familiarity apparently breeds contempt. So, in other words, anybody that don't look like them, they got a problem with them. I mean, why don't you just say it? Rural voters also feel disrespected by coastal elites, and Trump has managed to channel their anger. No doubt many rural voters, if they happen to read this column, would react with rage, not at Trump, but at me. So you think we're stupid? Wow. I can answer that in many ways, but let's move on. But support for Trump might nonetheless start a crack if rural voters realize how much they are being hurt by his policies. What's a Trumpist to do? One answer is to repeat zombie lies. A few weeks ago, Trump told a cheering rally uh, that his cuts in the estate tax have helped farmers. This claim is, however, totally false. When is Trump not saying something is false? PolitiFacts rated it pants on fire. The reality is that in 2017, only 80 farms and closely held businesses, that's right, 80, paid any estate tax at all. Tales of family farms broken up by to pay estate tax are pure fiction. Wow. The thing is, the assault on truth will have consequences that go beyond politics. Agriculture Economic Research Service isn't supposed to be a cheering section for whoever is in power. As its mission statement says, its role is to conduct high quality, objective economic research to inform and enhance public and private decision making. And that's not an idle boast. Along with the Federal Reserve, the Research Service is a prime example of how good economics can serve clear, practical purposes. Now, however, the service ability to do its job is being rapidly degraded because the Trump administration doesn't believe in fact based policy. Basically, it doesn't believe in facts, period. Everything is political. And who will pay the price for this degradation? Rural Americans, Trump's biggest supporters, are his biggest victims. But they don't care, y'all. They don't care. I believe some of them are aware of Trump policies hurting them, but not the vast majority. Many of them still show up to those rallies and support Trump. So they're supporting their own demise. And you can best believe this trade war is going to impact a lot of them in rural America when it comes down to jobs. I mean, the farmers, that situation will trickle down to everybody else. I mean, that's what people are not looking at. This trade war is going to be very damaging to the US. Remember, it increased the deficit, and I did a video on that. The last time he was doing this back and forth with China, it blew up the deficit, and it's going to happen again. You know, if somebody is not a good businessman, they're not going to be a good president. I can tell you that right now. He's not a negotiator. He was not a negotiator when it was his business, and he's not one now. Just look at the situation with the Vietnam summit with North Korea that he did not finish. He was so worried about what Michael Cohen was saying, he ran out and left that deal undone. And look at what has happened ever since. North Korea is now firing off all kinds of missiles. Back to square one. So what good did it all do? It was a waste of money and time. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And I will see you on the next video. Peace, family.